Hi there and welcome to another episode of Security Skills. I'm Carl Randall and I'm back with security expert Anthony Milner. Now this episode, it's a good one. A very useful skill for everyone really. Not just for those working in security. It's how to effectively use your voice. We'll be going over different tones for different things. How to come across more commanding and when you should and shouldn't raise your voice. Let's get into it. So Anthony, the voice. It's a very, very powerful tool. But why so is it more important for security professionals?
Well, it's very, very important. It's one of our main tools of communication. Another important part of our communication is how we're standing, how we present ourselves with our body language. But secondary to that is how we're using our voice and how we're talking to people, how we're communicating to people clearly to get them to do what we need them to do.
And different situations require different tones, expressions.
Absolutely. I mean, it depends entirely on what we're dealing with. Obviously, if we're dealing with a noisy environment, one of the key aspects that we need to do is we need to think of a way of getting ourselves to a quieter area so that we can talk at a reasonable tone, reasonable volume where people can actually hear us. If I'm in a busy nighttime economy environment like a nightclub, talking at a reasonable volume, no one's going to hear us and it's going to be very close up, sort of shouting into people's ears. That's dangerous on a number of levels. We don't know this person's intent. We don't want to be too close anyway. So ideally, we want to move to a quieter area. And then it does depend on the situation. It also depends on whether this person's intoxicated, whether they're upset, emotional. That's going to change how I interact and the tone of voice that I'm going to use.
And you mentioned there how important body language is, but facial expressions when you're talking to somebody is incredibly important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously when you're in close communication with somebody, they're looking at your body language, but when you're very close and you're having a discussion, your face is hopefully going to give away everything. You want to look people in the eyes, but at the same time, we do something where we're kind of looking around as well. It's not just kind of being rude, it's also I want to keep an eye on what's going on around me. Depending on the situation, there may not be just me, it might be a colleague. So if I'm talking to somebody in that situation, it's important only one of us is talking, not both of us, because that causes confusion, frustration, which can lead to aggression in certain cases. I want to lower my volume at this point. If I'm talking one-on-one with somebody and they can clearly hear me, there's no point in me raising my voice if I'm just trying to get a point across to them.
And another big thing, especially with facial expressions, is if someone has come to you maybe with a problem, and it might be, I don't know, a problem you might find funny or something like that. Smirking and stuff like that can really escalate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the problem this person's having may not seem like a lot to us, but it's a big deal for them. As professional people, we need to be looking like we're taking it seriously. We should be taking it seriously. We should be acting like we're taking it seriously as well. So smirking, somebody's lost their phone or something like that, and we're kind of like, oh, good luck with that. That kind of response is likely to trigger somebody because they're stressed at the minute. So taking it seriously, looking them in the eye, trying to find a solution to the problem, very, very important.
Now, so let's move on to projecting your voice. Why is this so important for a security professional?
Very important for a security professional because we might be needing to issue instructions to a large group of people. There might be other noise in the background. It could be, again, nighttime economy, a lot of noise going on. It might be trying to control a crowd, control a queue, trying to get everybody in the same place. And there is a difference between projection of voice and shouting. If you're going to shout constantly, you're going to have no voice left in a very short amount of time. So it's about controlling how you increase the volume without shouting, taking a deeper breath, holding your head slightly upwards, because if you're holding your head down, it's going to restrict the oxygen flow or restrict the airflow through. So you want to kind of naturally try to fill the lungs up and project your voice forward so that people can hear you. And of course, if I'm talking to a big crowd, I need to move, point my head towards the whole crowd so that they can hear me.
Now, somebody who's working in security, they might be quite new to the security, they might feel a bit shy. What advice would you give to them in terms of projecting their voice and speaking in front of big crowds of people?
Well, I think the first thing to do is a little ritual you might go through, especially when you're starting. I think you'll overcome shyness fairly rapidly if you're working in the industry, purely because it's just repeat. You're going to get used to doing it. One of the things you need to do is you almost change your attitude when you put your license on, you put your uniform on. Now this is me as security, and you almost need to click the switch. There's a few things we're doing there. One of them is we're kind of taking any kind of abuse that comes our way and letting it run off our back as well, because we know that that's going to happen. It's going to be part of it. And you need to have that almost on-off switch where you go, no, I'm a professional security, I'm not going to let that get to me. At the same time, you can use that same technique to say, well, I'm this person now, I need to give instructions to people. And essentially try and imagine you're talking to just one person. Yes, you have to talk with a louder volume because you may be addressing a lot of people. But if you try and visualize it that way, don't think of all the people, just think about one person that you're talking to.
I think as well, when people see you with your uniform on, you kind of automatically get that respect and people know to kind of listen to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll surprise yourself if you add a little bit of volume and start to tell people what to do. You might get the odd wise remark coming through from the joker in the crowd, but in general, people will just listen to what you have to say. So if you're being polite, you're saying, ladies and gents, can we just move up against the wall there to let people through? You'll find that actually people will just do that. So it can come as quite a surprise if it's the first time you've ever done it. Generally, people, yes, they will just respond to what you have to say.
So we talked about volume there, but what about tone?
Yeah, tone of voice is actually more important than volume. Tone of voice there's an old experiment that happened back in the 50s where they looked at body language being about 55% of understanding and then tone being 38% and the words themselves only being 7% of understanding. So the tone is much more weight behind the tone than the words themselves. So how I say something to you is going to have potentially carry weight to it or perhaps get a reaction from you. So using an assertive tone, essentially firm but fair, as opposed to an aggressive tone, which may trigger an aggressive response, or alternative to that, a very passive tone where no one's going to listen to you because they don't take you very seriously.
And going a bit further, I mean, working in security now is heavily a customer service role. You're speaking to customers as they're coming in and out of your venue, whatever type of security you work in. So having a nice friendly tone as well when you're greeting them is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are heavily judged now as sort of the front line of the business. So more so than ever before, because everyone's got mobile phones, they could film somebody who's maybe acting inappropriately in security, shouting at somebody, talking down to somebody, something like that. That's going to make the venue look bad and essentially could very quickly end with you not working at that venue anymore. 90% of our role is customer services, helping people. People are going to come to you most of the time, especially doors, they're going to be asking, if you're in London, they might be asking you, how do I get here? Where's the bus station? All that kind of stuff. So you're just helping people out. Could be, where's the toilet? That kind of thing, maybe asking for help. 90% of our role is going to be doing customer services.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Anthony. You can see why the voice is a very powerful tool. So just to summarize that, you want to be firm but assertive. You also want to learn how to project your voice, but you don't want to be shouting all the time. And another key thing here is facial expressions and body language. So I hope you found this useful and we'll see you on the next one.